Nearly 36 years after Mama's Family ended, we're finally looking back at what really happened to its unforgettable cast. For 6 seasons and 130 episodes, audiences couldn't get enough of the chaotic Harper family and their sharp-tongued matriarch, Mama Thelma. Behind the laughter, however, were lives filled with success, heartbreak, second acts, and painful goodbyes. Some stars soared to new heights while others faced battles no audience ever saw. In 2026, discover where they all are now. Betty White Ellen Harper Jackson. Betty White was born on January 17, 1922 in Oak Park, Illinois. She was 61 years old when she first stepped into Mama's Family in 1983 as Ellen Harper Jackson, Mama Thelma's snooty, well-to-do oldest daughter who always arrived with her nose slightly in the air, her wealthy husband Bruce in tow, and enough superiority to spark some of the sharpest mother-daughter fireworks the Harper household ever saw. But here's what most people don't realize: by the time she was playing the perfectly coiffed, perpetually competitive Ellen Betty White was already a major television legend thanks to her scene-stealing turn as the man-hungry Sue Ann Nivens on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Then, just 2 years later, in 1985, she reunited with her Mama's Family co-star, Rue McClanahan, to create one of the most beloved sitcom casts in history as the sweet, delightfully naive Rose Nyland on The Golden Girls. Her career spanned an astonishing 9 decades, earning her the Guinness World Record for the longest television career of any female entertainer and the title First Lady of Television. She was married 3 times, with her third and greatest love game show host Alan Ludden lasting until his death from cancer in 1981. The couple had no children, but Betty found endless joy in her lifelong passion for animal welfare and charity work. At the time of her passing on December 31, 2021, just 17 days before her 100th birthday, Betty White's net worth was estimated at $75 million. In 2026, 5 years after she left us, her warmth, wit, and legendary status continue to shine brighter than ever. The woman who played the pretentious Ellen Harper turned out to be one of the kindest, funniest, and most genuinely loved figures in American entertainment history. Some legends don't fade. They simply become timeless. Rue McClanahan Aunt Fran Crowley. Rue McClanahan was born on February 21, 1934 in Healton, Oklahoma. She was 49 years old when she joined Mama's Family in 1983 as Aunt Fran Mama Thelma's proper, slightly uptight older sister, who brought a touch of refinement and endless sibling rivalry to the Harper household. With her perfectly timed eye rolls and dry Southern wit, Fran quickly became one of the show's most beloved sources of quiet comedy. What truly defined Rue's journey, however, happened after the cameras stopped rolling. Just 2 years later, in 1985, she reunited with Betty White and created television history once again as the glamorous, man-loving Blanche Devereaux on The Golden Girls. That role earned her an Emmy Award in 1987 and turned her into an international icon of wit, charm, and unapologetic confidence. She was married 6 times throughout her life, each chapter teaching her something new about love and resilience. Her final marriage to producer Morrow Wilson lasted 13 peaceful years until his passing. Rue had 1 son, Mark, from her first marriage. Away from the spotlight, she was a passionate animal rights advocate and a devoted gardener who found her greatest joy in simple, quiet days. Rue McClanahan passed away on June 3, 2010 at the age of 76 after suffering a stroke. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated around $3 million. In 2026, 16 years later, her warmth and unforgettable laughs still echo through reruns and memories. The woman who played the refined Aunt Fran on Mama's Family proved that true elegance is never loud, it's simply unforgettable. Ken Barry Vinton Harper. Ken Barry was born on November 3, 1933 in Moline, Illinois. He was 50 years old when he stepped back into the Harper living room in 1983 as Vinton Vint Harper, Mama Thelma's good-hearted, slightly bumbling son, whose big dreams and small disasters created some of the show's warmest and funniest family moments. Long before Mama's Family, Ken had already won America's heart as the accident-prone Captain Wilton Parmenter on F Troop and the gentle widowed farmer Sam Jones on Mayberry RFD. He wasn't just a sitcom star, he was a gifted dancer and singer whose natural charm and physical comedy lit up stages and screens for decades. Ken married actress Jackie Joseph in 1960. They raised 2 adopted children together before parting ways in 1976. In his later years, he found quiet companionship with Susie Walsh, who stayed by his side until the end. Ken Barry passed away on December 1, 2018 at the age of 85. At the time, his net worth was estimated at $4 million. In 2026, 8 years after he left us, Vinton Harper's easy smile and lovable clumsiness still feel like coming home. The man who played the family's eternal optimist turned out to be exactly that in real life, a gentle soul who simply tried his best and left everyone smiling. Harvey Korman, Ed Higgins, and Alistair Quince. Harvey Korman was born on February 15, 1927 in Chicago, Illinois. He was 56 years old when Mama's Family premiered in 1983, reprising his classic role as Ed Higgins Eunice's endlessly patient, quietly exasperated husband, while also appearing as the dapper fictional host Alistair Quince, who introduced the early episodes. Beyond acting, he directed 31 episodes of the series, bringing sharp comedic precision to the entire production. Long before Raytown Harvey had already become a comedy legend through his decade on The Carol Burnett Show, where his flawless timing with Tim Conway created some of television's most unforgettable sketches. He also delivered scene-stealing turns in Mel Brooks films, most notably as the scheming Hedley Lamar in Blazing Saddles. He was married twice and raised 4 children across both marriages. A consummate professional who valued craft over fame, Harvey remained active in voice work and guest roles well into his later years. Harvey Korman passed away on May 29, 2008 at the age of 81 from complications following a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $25 million. In 2026, 18 years later, his masterful comic delivery and behind-the-camera guidance are still studied by actors and directors alike. The man who played the quiet anchor of the Harper family chaos was, in truth, one of the steadiest and most gifted comedic forces of his generation, a true craftsman whose work continues to teach and delight. Imogene Coca Aunt Gert. Imogene Coca was born on November 18, 1908 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She was 74 years old when she guest starred on Mama's Family in 1983 as Aunt Gert, Mama Thelma's lively, quick-witted cousin, whose single unforgettable visit injected a fresh dose of old-school physical comedy and delightful chaos into the already rowdy Harper household. Long before Raytown, Imogene had already earned her place as one of the true pioneers of American television comedy. She rose to fame as Sid Caesar's brilliant partner on the groundbreaking Your Show of Shows in the 1950s, where her extraordinary facial expressions, rubber-like physicality, and flawless timing helped invent the modern sketch comedy format that still influences television today. She later built a long and respected career in Broadway revues, vaudeville, and beloved guest roles across decades of classic sitcoms. She was married twice, first to musician Robert Burton and later to actor King Donovan, with whom she shared a quiet life until his passing in 1987. The couple had no children. Imogene Coca passed away on June 2, 2001 at the remarkable age of 92 from natural causes. In 2026, 25 years later, she is remembered as a foundational legend of television comedy whose influence reached far beyond that one episode of Mama's Family. The woman who brought Aunt Gert to life had spent nearly a century making America laugh, and she did it with grace, precision, and joy that never went out of style. Brent Spiner, Billy Bob Conroy. Brent Spiner was born on February 2, 1949 in Houston, Texas. He was 37 years old when he made 2 unforgettable guest appearances on Mama's Family in 1986, playing Billy Bob Conroy, the quirky, deadpan visitor who slipped into the Harper chaos with perfect comic timing and left just as quietly as he arrived. At the time, almost no one could have guessed that this unassuming sitcom guest spot was only a warm-up. Just 1 year later, in 1987, Brent stepped onto the bridge of the Enterprise as Lieutenant Commander Data the Android, who would become one of the most beloved and iconic characters in science fiction history. For 7 seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation, 4 feature films, and a triumphant return in Star Trek Picard, he brought warmth, curiosity, and quiet humanity to a character who wasn't supposed to have any. He married makeup artist Laurie McBride, and together they raised 1 son, keeping their family life thoughtfully private while he continued working steadily in film, voice acting, and theater. In 2026, at 77 years old and with a net worth estimated at $16 million, Brent Spiner remains one of the most respected voices in genre entertainment. The man who once played a small-town oddball on Mama's Family went on to remind the world that even a character built from circuits and code could teach us the most human lessons of all. Some roles you play, others become part of who you are forever. Vicki Lawrence, Mama Thelma Harper. Vicki Lawrence was born on March 26, 1949 in Inglewood, California. She was just 34 years old when Mama's Family premiered in 1983, yet she already owned the role of Thelma Harper, the sharp-tongued, no-nonsense matriarch of the Harper clan, so completely that millions of viewers simply called her Mama for the rest of her life. What most people don't realize is that Vicki didn't just play Mama, she created her. The character was born years earlier in a sketch on The Carol Burnett Show where Vicki, still in her 20s, stepped on stage in a gray wig and housecoat and instantly became a comedy legend. That same Mama carried Mama's Family through 6 seasons and 130 episodes of pure Raytown mayhem. But long before the wooden spoon and the eye rolls, Vicki was already a chart-topping singer. Her 1973 single, The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold millions. She has been married to makeup artist Al Schultz since 1974, a love story that has lasted more than 50 years. Together, they raised 2 children and built a life far quieter than the chaos she ruled on screen. In 2026, at 77 years old and with a net worth estimated at $8 million, Vicki Lawrence is still performing her one-woman show, Vicki Lawrence and Mama, a 2-woman show to sold-out theaters across the country. The woman who gave us television's most famous cranky grandmother turned out to be one of its warmest and most enduring stars, still quick with a one-liner, still quick with a smile, and still very much the heart of the Harper family. Dorothy Lyman Naomi Harper. Dorothy Lyman was born on April 18, 1947 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She was 36 years old when she joined Mama's family in 1983 and instantly lit up the screen as Naomi Harper Vinton's bubbly, endlessly optimistic, and often frazzled wife who somehow kept smiling through every family meltdown and Mama Thelma's sharpest one-liners. What began as a perfect comic contrast to the Harper chaos became one of the show's most endearing anchors across all 6 seasons. After the final episode, Dorothy didn't slow down. She moved into daytime drama and created another iconic character as the vibrant, outspoken Opal Gardner on All My Children, earning 2 Daytime Emmy Awards along the way. She later added producing and directing to her resume, showing the same quiet determination and versatility she brought to every role. She has been married twice and is the proud mother of 3 children, including daughter Emma Tillinger-Koskoff, an Academy Award-nominated film producer, and son Sebastian Tillinger, an actor. In 2026, at 78 years old, Dorothy Lyman's net worth is estimated around $6 million. The woman who played the cheerful and resilient Naomi Harper turned out to be every bit as strong, multi-talented, and full of heart in real life, still creating, still shining, and still proving that kindness and hard work can carry you through any kind of family storm. Beverly Archer Iola Lucille Boylan. Beverly Archer was born on July 19, 1948 in Oak Park, Illinois. She was 38 years old when she first stepped into the Harper living room in 1986 as Iola Boylan. The painfully awkward, painfully lonely spinster neighbor whose desperate need for Mama's approval and heartbreakingly misplaced affections made her one of the most quietly tragic figures in the entire series. What began as comic relief slowly revealed something deeper, a character who longed for connection in a house that never quite let her in. Off-screen, Beverly poured everything she had into the role, even writing several episodes herself. Yet after Mama's family ended, the spotlight that had briefly made her a household name flickered and went dark. She starred for 3 seasons as the tough gunnery sergeant on Major Dad, then slowly faded from view. Guest spots grew rarer. Offers dried up. By 2002, she had retired completely from acting and disappeared from Hollywood almost entirely. She has been married to actor Robert Bernard since 1976, a quiet, steadfast union that lasted through the highs and the long, long silence that followed. They built a life far from the cameras where Beverly turned to sculpting and gardening in the shadows of what might have been. In 2026, at 77 years old, she lives in near-total seclusion. The woman who once made millions laugh at Iola's aching loneliness now carries her own version of it in private. Some characters never truly leave you, and for Beverly Archer, the role that defined her may have been the one that quietly broke her heart the most. Allan Kayser Bubba Higgins. Allan Kayser was born on December 18, 1963 in Littleton, Colorado. He was only 22 years old when he joined Mama's family in 1986 as Bubba Higgins, Mama Thelma's tall, charming, and freshly paroled grandson, whose boyish grin and easygoing mischief quickly turned him into a genuine teen idol for a new generation of fans. For one bright, shining moment, it seemed Hollywood had discovered its next big young star. Handsome, naturally funny, and full of promise, many believed Bubba would launch him into a long and glittering career. But when the series ended in 1990, the spotlight dimmed almost overnight. The big offers never arrived. The phone stopped ringing. What should have been the beginning of stardom slowly became years of quiet disappointment and fading hope. Roles grew smaller and rarer until they disappeared completely. Allan eventually left acting behind and took on ordinary working-class jobs, assembly lines, vending machine routes, selling motorcycles, before settling into life as a mail carrier in the Kansas City area, ironically just minutes from the fictional town of Raytown where his most famous character once lived. He has been married twice and is the father of 4 children, finding meaning in family, while the fame he once tasted slipped further and further away. In 2026, at 62 years old, Allan Kayser lives a modest, largely anonymous life far removed from the applause that once surrounded him. The boy who brought laughter and warmth into millions of homes as Bubba Higgins now walks the same streets his character once roamed, delivering mail instead of dreams. Sometimes the brightest lights in Hollywood burn fast and leave behind only silence and the long, ordinary road that follows. Eric Brown Buzz Harper. Eric Brown was born on July 17, 1964 in New York City. He was only 19 years old when he walked onto the Mama's Family set in 1983 as Buzz Harper Vinton and Naomi's street-smart, rebellious teenage son, whose cocky attitude and constant clashes with Mama Thelma made him the perfect spark in the Harper family powder keg. For 2 seasons, the young actor seemed destined for stardom. Handsome, naturally funny, and already carrying himself like a veteran, Buzz became a teen heartthrob overnight. Fan mail poured in. Studios noticed. It looked like the beginning of a long, bright career. Then the show was canceled, retooled, and Buzz was quietly written out. The phone calls stopped. The auditions dried up. What should have been a launching pad became a dead end almost overnight. By the late 1980s, Eric had all but vanished from Hollywood. A handful of forgettable guest spots gave way to total silence. He left acting behind, entirely trading spotlights for ordinary jobs in a private life far from the cameras that once loved him. He married and built a family, yet the promise that once shimmered so brightly faded into the quiet ache of what might have been. In 2026, at 62 years old, Eric Brown lives in complete anonymity. The boy who once brought youthful fire and attitude into millions of homes now walks through life as an ordinary man carrying the invisible weight of a dream that ended too soon. Sometimes the brightest sparks in television burn out before anyone even realizes the flame is gone. Allan Oppenheimer Mayor Alvin Tutwiler. Allan Oppenheimer was born on April 23, 1930 in New York City. He was 53 years old when he first appeared on Mama's Family in 1983 as Mayor Alvin Tutwiler, the pompous, self-important town official whose bumbling authority and endless political schemes added just enough awkward small-town pressure to the already explosive Harper household. For a moment, it felt like a perfect late-career fit, a respected character actor stepping into a recurring role on a hit sitcom. But those 4 scattered episodes between 1983 and 1989 would mark one of the final chapters of his live-action television career. The phone calls that once came steadily began to slow. The auditions dried up. What should have been a comfortable twilight in front of the camera quietly faded into the background. Long before Raytown Allen had built a towering legacy and voice work Skeletor on He-Man, countless animated icons and memorable turns in Westworld, and the never-ending story. Yet the very thing that made him legendary became a bittersweet trap. The voice everyone recognized, the face fewer and fewer remembered. He was married twice, raised 3 children, and lost his beloved wife Mariana in 2003. After that, the spotlight he had once shared with the biggest stars simply moved on without him. In 2026, at 96 years old and fully retired, Allan Oppenheimer lives in quiet seclusion. The man who once played the mayor of Raytown now watches the world from the sidelines, a giant of voice acting whose on-screen presence slipped away almost unnoticed. Sometimes the roles that feel smallest on television carry the heaviest weight when they turn out to be the last ones. That's the Mama's Family cast then and now, the loud, loving, and wildly dysfunctional Harper clan that kept America laughing for 6 seasons and 130 episodes. Some are gone too soon, some are still lighting up stages, and a few have quietly stepped away from the spotlight forever. Behind every one-liner and slammed door were real lives filled with triumph, heartbreak, and quiet resilience. In 2026, their stories remind us that the funniest families are often the ones that hurt the most and heal the deepest. Drop a comment which cast member's journey touched you the most. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, Mama would be very disappointed.